Hi guys, I'm here to do a first for me a tutorial. I don't know how this is going to go because I'm not sure that I'm quite a tutorial person. I love watching them. I'm not sure how great I'm going to be at doing them, but I'm going to give it a go. So I'm sat at my son's desk. I've bought all my things that hopefully I'm going to need. Bear with me, it might be a bit kind of sloppy kind of how I'm doing it because obviously I haven't ever done one before. So anyway, the tutorial that I'm going to do, I'm going to attempt to make some fabric flowers that I really like using on my journals. So I'm going to kind of create some similar flowers to maybe some of these. So I'm going to create one probably similar to this one, which is kind of layered up from the organza kind of ones, you know, that you do with the lighter or the candle. And then I kind of layer it with lace. So there's that one. And then I'm going to do a lacy kind of flower like this one. And then the final one is going to be a kind of combination of the two, really. So these are just a couple of flowers that I've got kind of made up already in my stash. So I shall move them out the way. Now, firstly, I have to apologise for the state of my board here. This is just one of those glass chopping boards. As you can see, I use it quite a bit for my crafty things, covered in paint, and it's got glue and things like that. I did try and turn it over, because obviously the underside is quite clean, just for this tutorial. The unfortunate thing is I've obviously got the lamp on here just to give a bit better light. And the lamp then, because the underside is quite glossy, it just glared too much, so picked up too much glare. So I'm gonna have to go with this kind of messy side, I'm afraid. So I've got my hot glue gun here ready, hopefully warming up now as we speak. So let's get started. So the first one that I'm going to do is this style of flower. So I've got all the bits that I need here and kind of, you know, in a mock-up. So they're ready kind of for gluing. So if I kind of show you the kinds of bits that I have kind of ready to use. So here I've just got a little jar full of, well, it's quite empty actually now, I need to cut some more. Just basically just some felt rounds that I use for, you know, backing my flowers onto. I'm hoping that I'm going to stay in frame as well on this video because I can't obviously really see my iPad to check. So fingers crossed, you know, that this is going to pan out okay. Okay, so I've got various different sizes here. Obviously, sometimes you need kind of quite big ones for big flowers. Sometimes you need really teeny weeny ones if you're doing just very tiny flowers. So I have a kind of variety there. And a variety of colours. I try, you know, to kind of do a colour similar to the colour of the flower. But sometimes, obviously, I haven't got a colour the same, you know, and then I don't really worry because, in all honesty, once it's glued down, you don't actually see that felt anyway. So that's the base of the flower. And then basically, I have a huge tub here of all of my different coloured like ready-made flowers. So if I kind of show you, just get some out, in a whole variety of colours here, and again sizes and things. And I mean, hopefully kind of if you're watching this you've seen how people make these. I should have really brought a candle along and done one just to kind of show you, but I just thought that probably most people had kind of seen these being done. But if you haven't, basically, I mean, I just cut a kind of circle, doesn't have to be perfect, just a rough circle, and I tend to kind of fold the fabric over and maybe cut kind of 4 or 5 circles at a time. I then just go in, cut in kind of slots into the circle, and then you just hold it over a candle and the leaves or the petals just literally crinkle up as if by magic. Can remember the first time that my friend Jan showed me how to do these, I thought they were absolutely beautiful. Couldn't believe I'd never seen them before. Anyway, so this is my huge jar of different coloured ones. This is just an old candy foam ice cream sweets. jar of them, and a lot of them are quite bright coloured because I've said before I can't help but be drawn to bright colours. So that's those. If I want to kind of tone the colours down slightly, I'll just kind of show you a couple here that I have done sort of in the past. So for instance, I've got this kind of quite brightish kind of mint greeny colour. I've just used some of the Dilution sprays mixed with the pearl mists, and I've kind of sprayed them, and then obviously you can kind of change the colour quite well of the fabric there. So be warned, I've done it quite a few times actually with no gloves on, and just kind of spray it and then just, you know, kind of squidge it in my hands. My hands have stayed kind of dyed really vibrant colours for actually about 5 days. No matter how much I scrub and shower and what have you, it just stays. So I really should invest in some, you know, plastic gloves. But again, I'm not a very kind of organised person like that, so I just kind of go with the flow, and sometimes I don't plan what I'm doing and I'm just suddenly doing it before I know it, and I've got really messy hands. Then I've got another jar here, which this is just one of those jars from IKEA, and this is filled with all ivory coloured ones, and I've got a mixture of the kind of satiny fabric and the kind of sheer organza, because I like kind of layering up the two different types of fabric. So they're all there ready to go, and again they're all in kind of different sizes. So that's that. And obviously, as you can see, I went through a phase of making loads and loads of those, but it's quite nice to have them just on hand ready to go. So basically the one that I'm going to make similar, you know, to turn out similar to this, I've got a blue coloured felt round, and then my base petal here, this is one that I have dyed with the Dilutions. So this was kind of quite a bright lilac-y colour, and it's now kind of much more muted tone of kind of mauve. So I've got my hot glue gun here, which again you have to excuse the state of it, it's obviously very well used. And I just literally place some glue onto the felt circle, and then I put my petal there. It doesn't have to be perfectly in the middle or anything, you know, it's all very forgiving, so it's all fine. If by chance I've got a massive petal, sometimes I kind of just then scrunch it onto the felt, because again it's all very forgiving, so you can kind of make it smaller when you're scrunching it onto the felt. But this one actually, it was just the right size, so I don't need to do that. So that's my first layer. And then my second layer here, again I've dyed this with the Dilutions and the pearl mists, so this is kind of bluey mauvey colours, kind of quite watery kind of looking, if you know what I mean. So it's not solid colour, so I just layer that one literally on top here. And I mean, obviously there's tons of tutorials on flowers, so gosh, I mean, if this is just all basic stuff that you've seen before, please switch off, don't let me, you know, bore you anymore. But you know, I just this is how I do it, so I just thought I would give you a kind of run through of how I do it. Now this here is some scraps of lace that I had coffee dyed. It was basically a long strip. It was very similar to this kind of crochet-ish crocheted type lace, but it was a lot narrower, so it was only about that wide. Unfortunately, this was literally my last bits of it. So what I have done is obviously cut circles for further down in the flower, and then I decided that I wanted another layer here, but I didn't have actually enough to make another circle. So what I did was, obviously I've cut, well, it's not really a semicircle, but a rounded edge there, and here again just kind of cut a kind of rounded-ish edge on this little tiny scrap of square. And hopefully you'll kind of see that actually that doesn't matter at all when I kind of glue it down. And I'm not going to glue down the kind of, well, I'm not going to have this kind of really strong coffee dyed bit showing, I'm going to do it the other way. So I just put kind of half glue there, like that, and then the other piece, whoops, the other piece here I would just do like that. So you see, although that's not obviously from a circle, in fact one of those pieces was actually quite square, it's okay because these flowers are very, you know, and I keep using that same phrase of them, they're very forgiving. And I'm sure that's really very boring to listen to as well, but you know, they really are, so that's really fine. And then the next layer, again, is more of the Dilutions and the Pearl Mists sprayed, so I will just pop that on there. So again, I just put a bit of glue in there, and then I just pop this down. Now I do try and get the petals so that I don't have kind of them all, you know, all the slots or the slits in the same places. I've tried to kind of stagger them a little bit. I don't think I've done as good a job as I would have liked because obviously I'm on camera and worrying about other things, but you know, that's kind of the rough effect. So then the next layer, again, I've got another circle, this time an actual circle of that kind of coffee dyed lace, and I just again pop a blob of glue in there, and then I just stick this on here. Now again, I must just kind of warn you, obviously this glue is hot glue, and you know, I have burnt my fingers a lot of times. I had a really nasty kind of experience where I think I stuck some glue onto either a petal or a felt, and it kind of flipped over and literally stuck on, I think it was here on my thumb. Oh my gosh, it hurt so much for many days. So yeah, really be careful. Anyway, so I'm sure again you're all kind of familiar with hot glue guns, but just kind of be careful because I really have hurt myself a few times. And this is another one that I have dyed. Now as you can see, these are all coming up kind of slightly different colours, which I quite liked for this flower, and this was the effect that I wanted. I'm working on a couple of kits that I'm hoping to list in the next, well, hopefully a couple of days, maybe even tomorrow, but I'm not sure I'll get through that. And the colours on the outside of the kit are these kinds of tones, so you know, hence you maybe are looking thinking this looks atrocious, these mix of colours, but they go really nicely with the papers that are on the outside of the kit. So again, just a little blob of glue, and then just pop that in there. Now if you want it kind of slightly more texture, then what you can do is kind of put your nozzle of the glue kind of in there and really press. And I don't know whether you can see that on the camera. I don't want to burn my fingers, but when you're pressing, the petals are kind of like popping up, so it's giving it slightly more dimension there. So hopefully you could kind of see that. So that's that. And then I've just got another circle of lace, so again pop that in, pop that on there, and then I'm going to do that same kind of pressing down with the nozzle right in the center of the flower again, because I'd like it to be quite you know, puffy at this point. And then I've got another little petal here, so just pop that there, and then again like this. And then for this particular one, I've just got, last bit is teeny weeny circle of the lace that I'm just going to just pop in here. And again, I'm just doing that in the center, and that just kind of like enables it to you know, kind of pop up really more like kind of realistic petals, I guess. So that's that. Now this is where I pull the whole flower apart, where I've now stuck my finger in the middle. Right, so I'm quite happy with that. It's kind of looking more or less how I, you know, wanted it to look. So I've brought along a little pearl for in the center. Obviously you don't have to use a pearl. These are just some flat back pearls. I'll just show you. I did bring the packet along. They're like these. They're obviously not this packet, because this packet are actually all coloured ones, but I haven't got the original packaging for these, so I no longer have the cellophane wrapper. But they're just literally some flat back pearl stickers. Now what I do is I never kind of just trust the glue that's on the back of the flat back pearl, so I always apply it with glue. So again, being careful of your fingers, I just apply a bit of glue there and then pop that into the center and press that like that. And obviously that's now pretty secure, and that's your flower. So once you've kind of got that basic flower, you can then kind of embellish it further. You could put some kind of feathers sticking out behind it, or here I've got some stick pins that I kind of have made before. So you could take a stick pin, I don't know whether maybe that colour or maybe this one, and you could obviously pop a stick pin in somewhere. I won't be able to do this now on camera. Oh, it has gone in. So you could just stick sort of a stick pin in where you would like it or something, you know, or leave it plain. So that's kind of like that. I mean, actually for this one, I'm not going to have a stick pin, but I just brought them along just to kind of show you the types of things that you can kind of achieve there. So that's the first style of flower. So I shall move all this to one side. Hopefully not really boring everyone too much. Now the next one is going to be a kind of lacy kind of flower like this one. It's going to be slightly bigger than this, but it's just layered up pieces of lace basically. So I shall show you kind of how I'm doing this one. Again, I've brought one along ready kind of to go so that I'm not really boring everyone. So it's exactly the same in that I've got my felt base there, and then basically I've got lace trim at the bottom which I've cut into circles. So again, if I show you here, I've just got 2 circles, which actually it was from this particular piece of lace. So I basically just folded it over, and then I just roughly cut, you know, cut that off, and then cut my circles like that. So obviously doubling it over, you obviously are able to cut 2 at the same time. So just to save time there. So that's my kind of base of the flower. So then basically what I'm going to do is just literally fold them over like this. Now the reason that I do that, because I think maybe some people just layer them up like this, and I have indeed made them like that as well. You know, either or, I quite like that effect too. But sometimes I find that actually by folding them like this, so basically I would just apply a bit of glue here, just on one half, and then fold it over like that, and just press it in. I just find there's a little bit more puffiness, I guess, from doing it like this rather than just having the flat round circles. Now if I'm just worried about that coming up at all, I just then go in and just put a bit more glue there, because I always like to make sure that they're not going to be kind of coming apart. So that's that one. And then petal number 2, exactly the same. So I just put a bit of glue here on this second half, and then just use my folded up circle, and if I can, I try and kind of overlap it slightly, just so that there's not kind of whacking great big gaps there. And again, if I'm a little bit worried about it kind of coming up, I just put a little dab of glue there, just to kind of make sure it's properly stuck down, you know, where the circle's folded. So that's that layer. Now for this particular flower, I then interlayered a different piece of lace. So this is ivory, and this is a white piece of lace, which actually is from my nan's neck curtains. I've got a couple of different sets of neck curtains of hers. So this here, it's actually very, very fragile lace, and it's not that usable for a lot of things, because it actually, you know, I can show you just, well, now it's holding together obviously really well, but actually it's, see, very, very fragile. So it's not great for a lot of things, but it is great for these flowers. So again, I just cut a circle from the lace, and this one I'm just going to overlay there. So again, I just put a dab of glue in the center and stick it down like that. And then I've got the next layer is basically same again as the first layer with the 2 flowers. So again, they were back from this first piece of lace exactly the same method, doubled it over and cut the circles. As you can see, they're not perfect in any way, shape or form. In fact, they vaguely don't even resemble circles. But that's fine, you know, that's okay. So I basically then fold them over and exactly the same, except this time I'm going to try and do them where these two joined, covering that up so that the joins are not in the same place. So bit of glue there and stick that on like that. And then the next one, literally exactly the same thing, fold it over and then tiny bit of glue and again press that down. So, and again, just going to check that I think that that's glued well enough. If it's not, then I would just put another little bit of glue there just to make sure that it's not going to come up at all. So that's that. My glue gun seems to be forever kind of leaving strands laying around, so just pick those off out of the way. Right, the next layer, this is actually some other of my Nan's neck curtains, which I didn't bring along for the purposes to show you, but you know, it's just a slightly different design neck curtain. These ones are very useful and not so delicate, so I use these a lot. So again, I just cut a little circle and I'm just going to pop that in there, and then as per the first flower, I'm going to kind of press it, the glue gun, in the middle once I've glued that, like this, so that that just kind of comes up slightly. Can you see that? I think my arm was in the way. So just pressing this into the middle, which kind of puffs that flower up quite a bit. Can you see there? So those petals, if I just turn it round kind of to the side, can you see that they're quite raised now? Which I personally like that and think that's really pretty. So that's, oops, that's that one. And then the final layer for this one, I've got just one more tiny circle, you know, if you can call it a circle, from those other neck curtains, the very fragile ones, and this one just literally, again, dab a bit of glue in, stick that there, and then just literally kind of pop that like that. Hold that in place for a couple of minutes with the nozzle of the glue gun. That's literally all I'm kind of doing, and that's that. So that's my second style flower. Now for this one, again, kind of could have used those lovely flat back pearls. I do especially love, you know, love those, and obviously this one has got a flat back pearl and looks really pretty. But actually I've also got this little jar of kind of centres, I guess you'd call them, but actually it's not just centres, it's various different things, in fact even a haircut. So I've got various different bits and bobs that I've just kind of collected over the years. So some are kind of taken off of old jewellery, some are things that I've specifically bought, you know, various different things that I've used a lot in my journals. You know, in fact, this little stray rosebud's even made its way into there, and even that, in fact, would look super pretty just in the centre of that flower. But I'm not going to use that. I've got these little diamante ones, gorgeous, and they were just off of a headband, which I actually bought specifically for kind of crafts. So I'm just going to literally take that just like I did the first video, the first flower, pop some glue on there, and then literally stick that there, press it down firmly, and that's that. So that's flower number 2. Now what I have done sometimes, and I've brought along my distress ink here, occasionally I do actually just distress the flowers. Now I would do that at this point, you know, I'm not saying that that's, again, you know, right or wrong, and I would just literally kind of take the distress ink and kind of literally, you know, round the flower, just to give it a little bit of kind of aged effect, and also kind of shabbies up the edges, because obviously, you know, all that lace then kind of ruffles up a little bit more. Now this is quite an old dry ink pad, so as you can see it's not particularly kind of coloured that, but I mean obviously if I did want it quite coloured or quite dark looking, I've got obviously newer ink pads and I would use those. This actually, it is actually vintage photo, but I've just got the wrong lid on it. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, as you can see, quite an old one, so quite dry, not really kind of changing the colour much, but you know, certainly I have used kind of newer one that's kind of wetter, and it does, you know, significantly change the colour, and sometimes that's what you need. So that's those. Now the final flower that I'm going to do, I haven't got one that's ready done, I'm afraid, to show you, but basically it's going to be this teeny weeny one. So I'm going to turn it over, ready to kind of do it. Now, again, the base is exactly the same. So it's the felt round here. And what I did here for the base is I took some other lace, which was obviously a length of, you know, this kind of fine lace, which actually is kind of vintage lace, gifted to me by somebody at work. And what I did was I cut 4 lengths of similar lengths. I mean, again, they don't have to be identical. I just, you know, judge it by eye. I don't kind of measure things and things like that. So I literally just cut kind of, you know, 4 lengths, this sort of length. And then I ruffle them up and kind of glue them in. So I've got one here to show you. So, and again, this is where I really burn my fingers. So I just literally dab on kind of bits of hot glue along here. And then being careful, because it is obviously very hot, I just literally kind of fold it in. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. It's just literally just to get that kind of petal kind of effect. So, you know, no right or wrong. It's just, you know, just to form that little kind of ruffle. So, and I did that obviously with 4 different pieces. So basically what I then do is I take the first one and I just put a bit of glue here on the felt round and just stick that first one down like that. And then what I tend to do is then do the opposite one. Oops. So again, one that I did exactly the same as that one that I just showed you. And I just literally, again, put more glue over the other side and I just pop that down like that. And then I've got these couple. So literally again, exactly the same. I just pop a bit of glue here and just stick that like this. So that's those, and then final piece, exactly the same, bit of glue, and then just stick that down like that. And then just press them in kind of roughly like this. That's it. Now, what I've then got here is basically one of those beautiful organza sheer kind of flowers, and I was going to put that there, but actually what I could do is mix it up. I could put a little bit of a kind of lace round, so just going to go for this kind of more lacy section of the neck curtain. I've now noticed I'm now not on camera doing it. So I just literally cut very roughly kind of a circle here from those neck curtains. I need to obviously now make that smaller because this is actually a teeny flower. So I just literally, now I've got rid of a lot of that fabric and I've not got it hanging around me, just cut that smaller. It's very hard doing this, kind of watching the camera and also trying to do it, because you're kind of watching the camera more than watching what you're doing really. So I'm going to pop that in there just for kind of a bit more layering. So I just literally pop some glue in the middle and then I just pop that into there, and again just press it in like that. And then my next layer is going to be this. Now this is a kind of soft greeny colour, but it's organza, it's kind of sheer, so you know it's not you know, very noticeably green. Sometimes I quite like the look of layering up different colours anyway, because I think it gives a lot more dimension. You know, flowers often are quite varied, aren't they, in their colour tones. So that's that couple of layers there. And then here I've just got the next layer is again a kind of, now I'm trying to work out whether I have actually kind of mucked that up. So I'm just playing, hold on. This is why I don't think I'm really cut out for tutorials, because I don't really kind of plan things like this very much. I just kind of wing it a bit and whatever comes, comes. I'm going to cut another circle here and do another layer. So this one obviously needs to be really quite a teeny one, because the flower's getting obviously even smaller kind of now we're getting towards the middle layers. So again, just really, you know, just roughly cutting a kind of vague circle kind of shape. And again, I can kind of stretch this out and kind of move it around a little bit. And then I'm going to pop that in there. So again, just a little bit of glue there. And then just pop that in like this. And I mean, you can kind of get the gist, obviously, of what's going on here, and that the flower is kind of taking form now. And then I need to decide which of these to put next, because they're very similar sizes. So obviously what sometimes can happen if you put a smaller one underneath a bigger one, you either just lose it completely, or it actually kind of affects the shape of the flower, you know, which isn't ideal. So I'm going to use this one first, I think. So again, just pop that in there like that. And I'm just doing that little method again, where I'm just pressing the nozzle into the centre of the flower. Can you see instantly that's lifted that completely? Which, I mean, I love that and think that's really, really pretty. So then I've just got this little layer here, which again, just pop a bit of glue in and then just pop this in there like that. And again, with that nozzle, just pop it in here like that. So that's kind of that part of the flower. Now I did have one more layer here, although looking at it, this actually looks quite big now for that flower, so I'm actually not going to use that particular layer. I think maybe I kind of went wrong with the you know, making it when I made it just now. So that's kind of that. And then I could now put another small circle here, so I can try that, see how it looks, but I'm not sure whether I'm going to or not. So if I just cut out, and obviously this time needs to be really tiny. Again, you know, no exact science or anything, just very scrappy. And actually kind of the more scrappy the better, because you know, sometimes they're kind of a bit too perfect, and nature's not really like that. So I could have that little flower, whoops, that little piece of lace in there, I'm not sure. And then I've brought along a little pearl for the centre, so I can just try that and see how that looks. That's it with the piece of lace. And then this is it without the piece of lace. I kind of generally think it looks better with, let me just double check. Doing this always reminds me of that sketch or that scene in Devil Wears Prada, if you've seen it, where they're trying, I think it's the belts, and they ask, oh gosh, Anne Hathaway's character, her opinion for the belts, you know, because they're saying, oh gosh, they're so different. And I mean, she just says, well, they look practically the same to me. And sometimes I just find myself looking at things and I kind of put things on, I take them away, I put things on, I take them away. And I might do that kind of about 3 or 4 times, and actually kind of to anyone else they'd say, it looks barely any different, you know, why are you even wasting your time doing that? But to me, I sometimes think it does. Anyway, so I quite like that with the lace in there. So I'm just going to pop that into here. Again, a bit more glue. Pop that in like that. Press it in again, just for that kind of popping up of the petals. And then, as I said before, I never kind of just trust the glue that's on the back of, I mean actually on the back of anything, stickers, the flat back pearls, anything at all, because I don't think it's robust enough. So I always add a little dob of glue. So there's, whoops, a bit of hot glue on there, and that's just there in that center, like that. So that's that one. So again, quite pretty and, you know, quite simple to do. Again, you could obviously finish it off if you wanted with a little stick pin or something, you know, just kind of slot that in, you know, at the side or whatever. And again, I mean, obviously I've just done this just quickly to show you, but I mean, if I was obviously doing it, I would obviously properly put the pin in and insert it. And then I would probably also put a dab of glue down here to kind of hold the pin properly in place, you know, because I like things to be kind of really held in tightly. So I'm not going to have the pin in there though, I'm just going to leave it as is. So they're the 3 flowers obviously that we've just made here on the tutorial. Hope I wasn't really boring. Hope I mainly stayed in frame. Obviously it's unfortunate because I can't really kind of see the iPad very well. It's like at eye level, so I can only half see the screen. Yeah, so first attempt at a tutorial. Hope it all went okay from everyone's perspective watching it, and yeah, thank you very much for watching. Thanks a lot, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks, bye.